My name is Lesley McNutt. I am delighted to be here today, and we're a kind of an anomaly at this conference in that I'm not talking about tech. We don't do tech, but I'm really looking forward to maybe getting some of your ideas at the end of this talk about how we might incorporate AI into some of our monitoring and evaluation and our impact assessments. So I'm going to talk to you about Coaching Conservation, which is a program that is designed and developed over the last 15 years in Botswana. And it's about using education and play as our mechanism to improve the sustainability of our conservation program. And I think I can use this. So this is a statement that I would like us all to agree on, and that education of young people about their natural heritage is critical and foundational to any sustainable conservation program. And I often say the same thing, which is we don't want to be doing the same things and having the same conversations and trying to change the world, or I shouldn't say that, trying to fix the world decade after decade, but that we should be empowering our young people to make good decisions and better decisions so that they can take over and make good decisions for themselves. So that's what this is about. So understanding coaching conservation. Coaching conservation is part of a bigger program. So we have been in Botswana since the early 90s, and it started as the Botswana Predator Conservation Trust. In fact, it started as the Botswana Wild Dog Research Project, and my husband started at his PhD research on African wild dogs. We evolved into all large carnivores, and then it's become a multifaceted, more holistic program that has 3 program pillars. And so research still is maintained as our core research and science and applied conservation science. And in this room, it's apropos in that Paul Allen was instrumental in funding, seed funding for one of our most important research project, which is called the BioBoundary, which he and Jody helped us start the Laboratory for Wildlife Chemistry, which we are dedicated to figuring out the chemical communication, the olfactory communication that animals speak to each other in. So that's a whole program pillar. And we play, which I'm going to talk to you about today, that's children's education. And then we have a community coexistence program, which is about community development, sustainability, where we're working towards poverty eradication and social development in order to provide the opportunities for communities and local communities to take care of themselves and feed themselves and not negatively impact the natural resources. So, like I said, I'm going to focus on coaching conservation today. So since 2004, it's been an evolution and an adaptation of figuring out how to do conservation education. And I did find when I was doing my graduate work that we weren't really getting very far with our conservation messaging. And so the reason that we weren't getting very far with it, people weren't listening. Adults weren't, I didn't have the ear of the communities. And I realized that it was because you cannot talk to anybody about the future unless they're invested in it, unless they've chosen to have one. And so this program was, the inception of it was about that. How do we inspire children to care about themselves enough to choose to have a future? And then we can start having those conversations about what the world's going to look like when they grow up and when they're participating in it. And the fundamental starting point for that is respect for self. So our core mission, everything revolves around respect for self, respect for others, and then, in that order, respect for the environment and the natural world around you. Our target age is 10, 11, and 12. 10 is the primary important age where kids are grade 5, grade 6. They have the cognitive abilities to understand there are big challenges going on in the world. They understand that there are things that they need to, but they haven't yet made up their minds. And that's really, really critical that we give them opportunities and give them experiences that they wouldn't necessarily have, where they have relationships with the wildlife and wildlife spaces so that they can begin to develop an empathy for those animals. We harness the kids' natural enthusiasm by using sport. Every one of our projects is delivered through sport. through play. We don't sit in a classroom. We're running around. And like I say, it's grown into this holistic curriculum over the years, which I'm going to explain to you. See? So this is a busy slide, and I apologize. But all of our programs are designed around the same model. We call it learning from wildlife. So the kids first meet the animal. Every lesson is brought to you by, it's like the Sesame Street model. It's brought to you by cheetah. Today we're going to learn about cheetah. We're going to learn what's cool about it. We're going to learn what makes it successful in the wild. And we're going to find out what its conservation challenges are. So we start out with a knowledge component. Kids learn about what it is that makes that animal successful in the wild, what its behaviors are, and then we mimic those behaviors on the soccer field. And that first part is really, really important. Value alone. So we believe and understand that you can't value something unless you know something about it. But knowledge alone doesn't change behaviors. You need to have a much more intuitive relationship and personal relationship in order to actually expand on that value. So then we take what we've learned and we take it onto the soccer field and we mimic those characteristic behaviors as soccer skills and in life skills as well. So we run around again in the example of cheetahs, speed, balance, and acceleration are the core skills that make a cheetah successful in the wild. And then we mimic those and we do soccer skills and drills in fast dribbling and acceleration. And then we play a game with them. So every time you're out there, we tell the kids, okay, everybody start out, you run 25 meters. And we're going to time you in doing that. And then you come back and then you change their posture a little bit. And you get them to get low down and bend your knees and maybe stick your bum out and think about cheetah tail. Think about your claws digging in. And then we send them down the field again, 25 meters. Sure enough, they can run a little bit faster. So the program is all about mimicking and becoming one with, becoming that animal and relating to it. And then we take those, the skills that we've learned, we turn them into games. And then the third part of the program is called help. We learn what that animal is facing. Like, what are the conservation challenges that animal's facing? And what can we do to help as children? And so for example, again, in the case of cheetah, it's called Win-Win, the program that we run with those kids. It's a role-playing game where the problem is cheetahs are livestock predators. But as a child, if you set up your bomas and you help your parents and your aunts and uncles keeping your goats and small stock safe at night, the cheetahs can't eat it. The farmers and the dads and the mums and the whatever won't kill the cheetahs. You'll keep your goats. Everybody wins. So like I say, every single lesson is set up in that same format, meet, be, and help. And it's important that at the end of all of this, these kids start to understand the connectivity between all of us. And every lesson also starts with the fundamental, we are all connected. And that message goes throughout all of our lessons. We're all connected by the need for food, water, shelter, and space. And so on the right-hand side, you'll see that this is the function of our core program, which is a 6-week program. So the kids will start week 1, they'll get a core skill and soccer skill, so that master of the ball. And then we build up over 6 weeks to this pyramid of player development, as it's called. You get 6 core soccer skills, you get 6 core messages, as well as we will introduce 6 of the major conservation challenges that are facing us in that country or in that region. So those really importantly, what happens at the end of this is there is this development of an empathy, and the roots of empathy begin to be sowed within children once they've had these various experiences mimicking and learning about these animals. So this is just another example how it's set up. We try, by all means, if we can, to get them out in the bush, to have a wildlife experience of their own. Very often it's the first time, sometimes the only time in their young lives that they've ever been able to see wildlife on their own and in a positive environment. And so it's not a threatening environment. The elephants aren't, they're not in the village where they're worried about elephants attacking them. They're in a vehicle where they're learning about those animals. Each lesson has a core theme. In this case of rhinos, it's nature's defenders. So then on the field, we learn to defend your goal as well as we learn to change direction quickly because black rhinos are really good at that. And then the life skill in the case of rhinos is change direction quickly. So if you're in a bad friend group, things aren't going well, it's fine. Be like a rhino, just change direction quickly. And then again, the conservation challenge in the case of our rhino lessons is about the illegal wildlife trade. So all lessons are built like that. Our program learning material is a variety of the kids' activity books, which kids get to take home with them, and it revisits all of the lessons they've learned throughout the program. There's a guidebook and lesson book that is designed to exact how to teach the courses, what to say, how to set it up, what props you need for the soccer games. And then it comes with a set of flip charts for your meat lesson. And we right now have 16 different animal lessons that we can offer. We offer programs across grades 5, 6, and 7. We offer a RAP, which is a rapid awareness program, just a 2-hour that can be designed around a single animal. We can put together a full day program we call a bush day, which is really sort of our best of the best. So you get to be out there, have your personal wildlife experience, and get that lesson on the field. We revisit the kids as best we can 3 times, like I said, in their senior primary year. So we visit them once in grade 5, once again in grade 6, and once in grade 7. And then where there is resources and time and investment from partners, we do a 6-week program like I described earlier in the pyramid of player development. So there's all these multiple ways of putting programs together. And I want to talk about how we measure our impacts, because that's the biggest question in the few conversations I've had around the conference just in the last 24 hours. It's always what comes up. How do you measure education? It's really hard, especially when you're 10 and 11. What's the impact that that's going to have on conservation in the future? So we've spent a whole bunch of time, and again, it's a busy slide, sorry. We spent a whole bunch of time trying to figure out how to measure our impact. And we started doing surveys, pre and post. We asked lots of questions. Knowledge is one that you can pretty easily quantify. Did you know there were multiple species of vultures in Botswana before and after? Do you know what the Latin name is for an African wild dog? Or just what are the conservation challenges? So anyway, multiple ways of measuring knowledge, and we're really pretty good at that. The other things that are harder to measure and more important are confidence, empathy, and value shifting. Have we changed values in these children? So can they identify things they value after having done the program than before? So we started doing something really, really simple, just asking kids to list the things they care about. So what's important on your list? It's your mom, your dad, your cell phone, your dog, your friends. And then at the end of it, you ask them the same question again. What do you value? What did you learn that you didn't know before coaching conservation? And we just record it all and then code it for what it is that means. And it just means, and then we're able to show almost 100% conversion when it comes to kids saying something to do with animals or wildlife as something they care about at the end of the program. So we do, like I say, we do have, and the kids that we've reached, we've got a pretty solid shifting in values. We then weren't getting quite enough long-term impact that we were able to actually say, well, what's going to be the difference in their lives? And I've done a couple of longitudinal studies reaching kids 5 years after the program, 10 years after the program. Were we able to show any significant, statistically different behaviors to the norm, to the average population? So did they stay in school longer? Did they delay sexual debut? Did they do extracurricular activities? So I tried all that, but I wasn't able to show it statistically because we have a short program that you can't actually evaluate whether or not coaching conservation specifically was the reason for that. So we have lots of anecdotal and testimonials from kids, but we weren't able to actually statistically say this program specifically made a difference in their lives in that way. So we started looking at this instead, and it's called the capabilities approach. It comes from economic theory. It comes from a researcher named Amartya Sen, and it's about looking at capabilities to begin with. So can we show that the kids have the capability to identify values they care about? And then do they have some new skills and abilities to live those valued lives? So can they do something different with those new skills that they've learned? And then do they have the agency? And if you think of that as an agent for change, have they done something outside of their own lives for somebody else in some way? And so what we've done is we've got multiple different ways to get feedback from children. So we do art programs, projects. They do drama, skits, plays, poems. We ask every classroom of kids that we've delivered to play it forward, to teach somebody else, some other classroom, some other sports team, what they've learned. And we take all of that and we code it for the things, and these are the categories of meaning that they have come up with over the years. And so knowledge acquisition, empathy, and the ability to care for themselves, having a sense of responsibility, having confidence, understanding relationships, appreciating that we are all connected, appreciating diversity, having respect for others and the environment, cooperation, having a sense of empowerment, exercising their agency, and appreciating fun and joy. So then we take all of those things, and there's a couple examples. So Basadi, who gave a quote back after the program, says, "I live in Habu Village. I've lived there all my life. Coaching Conservation came. We had fun. We had fun playing and learning at the same time." So we go back and we go, okay, we're coding that for appreciating fun and joy. And then the next one, they taught me that a vulture is a beautiful bird because it's nature's cleanup crew. So that's just knowledge, right? Straight up knowledge acquisition and awareness. I've learned something that a vulture is an important part of the ecology. It cleans up diseases and carcasses, and it gets rid and makes our whole world cleaner for people and for animals. The next one, I also clean up whenever I see dirt. So that's taking it one step further. That's a sense of responsibility. So we've coded that. I'm actually going to take responsibility for my own environment. And the next one is we went on a game drive. It was my first time, and it was scary, but it was nice at the same time. And so that one I've coded for having a sense of empowerment. You're empowering yourself to actually learn something new and not be terrified or petrified of an animal anymore. And then there was one quote from a coach. So I thought I knew a lot of things before I joined CC, but I'm still learning more and more after a year. And again, that's knowledge acquisition. I cannot ever explain the joy of watching a mind shift happen right before your eyes. So he's teaching kids, and he's watching this change happen. Oops, I went the wrong way. And so I've coded that for understanding relationships. He's starting to realize that his relationship with these kids is actually impacting change. And the last one is I am part of change, and that is exercising agency. So I think you get it. This is how we code everything, and we're able to, over time, develop whole categories, as well as then we can put them all together, and then we have 100 or however many that we can say these kids have actually developed knowledge from the program. And my favorite quote of all times is this one: "What did you learn that you didn't know before coaching conservation?" "I learned that animals are important." I had no idea. I didn't know that. They were just meat before. Empathy and taking care of others. This little girl says she went to an orphanage. She helped out. She read to the elderly people, and she said they didn't know that anybody cared for them before. So that's a real agency, sort of a flag for agency, that she's taken something and done something completely different that she attributed to what she learned at coaching conservation. And confidence, there's lots and lots, especially in the girls. We have lots and lots of testimonies about girls really developing confidence. And part of that is because they're doing it through sport, and they don't usually get the opportunity to play sport, and especially with boys. So we do always, and this is really critical to us, we empower girls, but we empower girls by empowering girls and boys together. And so it's critical. There's lots of literature that shows that girls and boys who play sport together at their younger ages rely on each other as team members. You put a girl into the goal, and all the boys have to actually trust her that she's going to stop that ball. And so that changes their ability to have positive gender relationships as they grow older, when they are allowed to play together and rely on each other in a team sense when they're younger. So that's critical to us. All our programs are done whole classrooms. We are never, ever do a program for just girls, and we always include the entire classroom. So the amplification of this value, so it's not just about teaching kids, but by reaching the children, we're also training coaches, we're reaching the teachers, we're reaching the families. We have program activity books that go home. So all of these messages also get to be shared across the entire community once we've done and once we've finished a program. So this is just some metrics about where we are today, having reached 50,000 children. And so we're at this stage now, and part of why I wanted to, or was invited and asked to share this with you, is that we're ready to scale this program. And one of the hardest parts of doing any kind of conservation is actually overlaying and putting an education program in it, because they're hard to design, they're hard to develop, they're hard to manage, monitor. And so we're hoping that we can offer a solution to programs that are already up and running, that we can create bespoke curricula for your programs in your own environments, your own communities. We can scale across different sports. We can create programs that have different animal suites and different conservation challenges depending on where and how you work. And we have a Train the Trainer program. We have a fantastic partner in the Southern African Wildlife College. We have an accredited training program. So we can choose and send champions from communities, have them trained there, and then come back into their communities and start their program there. And like I said, we've been able over the years, we've got a really solid delivery mechanism now, but we can create these bespoke curriculums for everybody's own needs and desires. So why integrate it? Well, I kind of just said so. Why? It's because, but what the other thing is that it's interesting to me after all these years of just adapting and adaptation of what we've been doing, that the United Nations Development Goal 4, which is education, and specifically 4.7, dictates that we should be delivering education for sustainable development through 3 critical modalities, and that is cognitive, which is knowledge, behavioral, which is the action and participation, and then emotional, social, the value. And so it just turns out that what we've ended up designing over all these years is the same, delivering it through these 3 core modalities. We call it meet, be, and help. The UN calls it cognitive, behavioral, and social. But as I said at the beginning, if we can get all the 10-year-olds to change their minds about the relationship with themselves and the world around them and make good decisions for us and for themselves, then they can do the heavy lifting going forward. And we can do more productive things rather than policing and trying to stop the kinds of things that we spend a lot of our time trying to stop in terms of resource offtake. So education is regarded, as I hope that we'd all agree at the beginning, crucial to any conservation program. This program is done and ready to deliver, and I'd be delighted to talk to anybody who might be interested in having a program designed for them. The benefits are immediate. It's a proven effectiveness, and we can set up with a new M&E program for everybody. It's adaptable, as I said, across all sports, all animals, and habitats. And it can be based on your local conservation challenges. And then the last thing I just wanted to go through here is that there's also an exponential further positive impact, and it's not just about children, and I alluded to this earlier, but when we close the loop, so we hire unemployed youth, we train them to do conservation education, we employ them in that job doing conservation education, and what they're doing with their day is inspiring kids to care about themselves, each other, and the natural world around them. And so you're closing that loop and providing a more, exponentially positive impact, and then it addresses not only education, but multiple other SDG goals, which include poverty, because you can feed yourself if you have a job, hunger, gender equality, climate action, and life on land. So there's all sorts of elements of the program that you can show are influencing positively the Sustainable Development Goals. And that I just thought was fun. So we threw it in there to say it's important to have fun, it's important to get out there. And that's what we do with our programs, is always make sure that it's all about play, it's all about sport. All of our coaches are taught in how to bring their best selves We use a lot of song and dance and music and bright colors, and everything is just fun. And so I'm going to open it up to questions now, but what I want to just say is that the next steps in our minds are we can design and develop programs across the continent and across the world. And then I'm hoping that with all the intelligent AI minds in this conference and in this room, one of the things that would be really fun is to figure out how to, maybe mechanize is the wrong word, but to formalize our M&E in a way that we could compare and contrast across all programs of coaching conservation if we're doing it in a really specific way. And I'm thinking there must be ways using AI, which I haven't yet discovered, to actually collect our data, analyze our data, use our data, and then finesse our programs based on that. And then innovating new partnerships that work. So together, by getting this out and scaling it across the continent and across the world, we can have a self-perpetuating movement of kids who care by making careful decisions for themselves, each other, and the world around them as they grow up. So that's my presentation today, and I'd love to open it up if anyone has any questions. Do you want to? Okay. Sorry. Great.
Yeah, it's working. Hi. First of all, great presentation. We are currently working on, we're kind of working on also a program. It's called the Junior Ranger program. It's basically conservation education for children. And one challenge we're experiencing right now, we are and we have been integrating tech and digital literacy into the conservation education. But one main challenge we're experiencing is content. Not just us, throughout the landscape that we work in, which is the Mount Kenya, Laikipia, and we have other partners, and the main challenge is content. I just wanted to ask, is there, or maybe give a suggestion, is there a way you can create like more interactive content in terms of in the digital space? Something interesting I saw a couple of weeks ago was like a virtual lab where people like mix chemicals, but that was like for a chemistry, that was basically for like chemistry, a subject. So another approach that we've thought of, another approach when it comes to the Kenyan landscape is what we've realized works is basically integrating the conservation education into the curriculum so the teachers can easily adapt and there can be some kind of sustainable approach towards it. But I'm very curious about the content, and I'm just wondering, would you be open to like working around digitizing this content, and if so, we would be happy to see how best to work together on that.
Thank you for that question. Two really important questions, and I'm looking on my phone because we created an app based on these programs, and it does, there's an organization called the Good Work Foundation, and they're based out of the Hoedspruit and Hazy View area, to the western border of Kruger. And they run digital campuses. So the idea that they have is when children can get themselves around a tablet, then the world is open to them. They're not restricted to the classroom they're in or the teacher they have. They can actually have an education well beyond what's available to them locally. And so they approached me and said, we'd like to develop a digital learning app for conservation. And I said, no, we do running around. That's important to us. Like, we don't want kids sitting on their phones or their tablets. We want them to run around. It's part of it. And they said, yeah, but where are they when they're done running around with you? They're on their phones and their tablets. And so can't we adapt the program that you have into a digital program and an app? And so I said, actually, that's a good idea. And so we created this whole app that it never got finished. It did get finished, it never got delivered. But it's using exactly the same Meet, Be, and Help. You get on the phone, you look at a little video, you hear the sounds that animal makes. Then you go, what are the challenges that animal faces? And so there's all the games, and there's multiple games and multiple ways of reinforcing those messages. And instead of running around, you're playing with your thumbs, like the FIFA kind of soccer app. So I think it's a brilliant idea. Turns out it costs a lot of money to build an app that works. And we did not have we did it, but we didn't have the resources to get to the end point, just for multiple reasons. It just didn't work out. But if you FIFA app, like whatever, I was like, yeah, let's do that. Okay, well, if you got $200 million, you can do that too. But it's, yes, and we would love it, and we were kind of on our way with that. And I think it's really important to have multiple ways of getting these messages out and having them reach kids in multiple ways after they've had the program.
So basically, just talking about the specific program you have there. If there's a way we can, if we were to come on board, if there was a way it can be digitized, because we have our learner management system already in place. Mm-hmm. We just need the actual content, and also just basically the actual content. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We do have a partner opportunity sort of scheme, so I would be really delighted to talk to you about it. What it would mean, how we would get started. We would come and do a situation analysis at your place. Look at what it is, how many kids, what are the conservation challenges, how would we make it, how would we set it up. We'd create it, and then we would work together and teach your facilitators and guides and people how to actually run that program. And then if we could somehow partner with a digital component as well, that I'd be really open to talking about that.
Thank you very much for the great and inspiring presentation. Just out of curiosity, I've seen quite several initiatives like this one across the continent, and I really like what you are doing. And like, you'd find that you have things like eco schools, you have wildlife clubs, you have this and you have that. So would it be possible to create some kind of a community of practice where all these great initiatives can, you can all come together, and the vision, there's a lot of overlap in terms of the vision, the passion, and where everyone wants to get. And I wonder if there's a possibility to create that kind of platform where, you can all come up together and come up with a great product that incorporates all that you're doing. Thanks.
Yeah, I think collaborating and partnerships are critical. And as you say, we all have the same end goal. Everybody has a little different way of delivering it. And sometimes we are reinventing each other's programs. And so if there are ways to adapt and to certain programs and develop them, one of the really important things that we can do is attach to sports teams. So you already have a program where you've got after-school sports clubs. We can add value to those clubs through the program. But then, and the other thing is, it's very specific. Grade 5, grade 6, grade 7. We need partners to carry on into high school. We need partners to take those same messages and deliver them in a different way for a different audience, which is a slightly older group. We also sometimes only reach kids for 2 hours. And then there's a lot of programming that can be done in conjunction if we were to meet together and say, okay, we can do this. We think of ourselves as the light switch that turns on. We get kids enthusiastic and caring about themselves and about animals. But it can't stop. We need lots of different multiple ways to continue to address and see kids and get them to continue to be excited. So yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. A community of excellence around using sport, but also just multiple ways of teaching.
So, thank you. I've come across your program a couple of times and it's always just had such an incredible impact. But I was just wondering, you said you work in a number of different habitats. Do you have any cases where you've worked in the marine space with marine animals and applying to that sort of habitat?
No, but I'm so keen. I have been approached by the Oceanic Society to try and develop something, and got involved with the whole not humpback whales, leatherback turtles, and developing something in whales, seals, dolphins, turtles. It's the fun part is creating, sort of sitting around and figuring out what soccer skill can that turtle do but we can figure it out. But absolutely, I want to do that and develop a marine program. And there's no reason, as long as we can attach it to a team sport, and water polo seems like it could be a good one for the marine program. So that it's really important that they be able to play using those skills. But we could definitely, I've actually thought quite a lot about it. So yeah, absolutely. And I'm also busy with one right now for North America with sort of in the Yellowstone environment. So bears, wolves, elk, foxes. So that's also a fun one on my list. But yes. I want to do
Great. I'll come chat.
Okay, great. Oh, thanks everybody.